Look at this menu, $1.85 per plate. There's no way you can afford this place for my brother's wedding. My sister-in-law Melissa sneered at me across the elegant table at Riverside Manor, one of Charleston's most exclusive wedding venues. What she didn't know was that I owned 40% of this property and had personally designed the very menu she was insulting. How much longer should I let her embarrass herself before revealing the truth? I'm Harper Bennett, 29 years old, and I'm marrying Thomas Reed, a high school history teacher who makes $52,000 a year. His family comes from old Charleston money, and they've treated me like dirt since day one. When Thomas first introduced me to his family, the judgment was instant. His mother Patricia gave me a tight smile. His father Gerald barely acknowledged me. And Melissa? She looked at me like I was something stuck to her shoe. So Harper, what do you do? Patricia asked, her tone dripping with assessment. I'm a hospitality consultant and investor, I replied. I help restaurants and venues with operations and profitability. Melissa laughed out loud. Oh, how cute. So you're like a restaurant manager. More like I help owners build successful businesses, I clarified. Investment. Melissa's laugh got louder. Sweetie, that's adorable. My husband Brandon does real investment, commercial real estate, development deals. Millions of dollars. Thomas squeezed my hand under the table. Harper's very successful, Melissa. I'm sure she is, for her industry, Melissa replied dismissively. What they didn't know was that I owned stakes in 8 restaurants across the Southeast. My portfolio was worth $2.3 million. I'd started as a line cook at 18, worked through culinary school while waitressing, and by 25, I'd made my first investment, a 20% stake in a struggling Charleston bistro. I turned it around, tripling its revenue in 18 months. By 27, I had 7 profitable restaurant investments and a reputation for turning struggling businesses into gold mines. Then 2 years ago, my mentor James Whitmore approached me. Harper, I'm buying Riverside Manor. It's been mismanaged, but the bones are incredible. I want you as my partner. Riverside Manor was legendary, a historic plantation venue on 12 acres along the Ashley River. It hosted Charleston's most prestigious weddings, but was losing money badly. James wanted me to handle operations, food, beverage, events, marketing. The buy-in was $400,000 for 40% ownership. I took the risk. In 18 months, we transformed it completely. I redesigned the catering menu, hired a world-class chef, upgraded everything, and implemented systems that increased efficiency by 60%. We became the most sought-after venue in Charleston. 2-year wait list, $75,000 average booking. My stake was now worth $1.8 million. But I never told Thomas's family. Why would I? They'd already decided I wasn't good enough. Even Thomas didn't know the full extent. We kept finances separate, lived modestly. I drove a Honda, shopped at Nordstrom Rack, wore minimal jewelry. Wealth whispers, my mother always said. When we got engaged 3 months ago, we planned a small backyard wedding. Then Melissa inserted herself. A backyard wedding? For a Reed family wedding. She was horrified. What will people think? You need a proper venue. His parents agreed. Fine, I conceded. We'll look at venues. Melissa's eyes lit up. Perfect. Riverside Manor, where all the best families get married. I'll set up a tour. My stomach dropped. Of course she'd suggest my own venue. That place costs a fortune, Thomas protested. Don't worry. Brandon and I will help pay. We can't have you married somewhere cheap. I stayed quiet, curious how far she'd take this. Today's tour was torture. Melissa played expert despite never being here. This is way above anything you're familiar with, Harper. This is what a real venue looks like. Jennifer, our coordinator, recognized me, but I signaled her to stay silent. When Jennifer presented my catering menu, Melissa gasped. $85 per plate? Harper, this is insane. You can't afford this. Melissa, that's inappropriate, Thomas said sharply. I'm being practical. She works in restaurants, she doesn't own them. She probably makes $40,000 a year. Brandon and I will obviously cover most costs. She got louder. Honestly, Harper, you probably can't even afford to eat here, let alone host a wedding. Jennifer explained to her how deposits work. The deposit alone is probably more than her rent. I'd had enough. Actually, Melissa, there's been a misunderstanding. Jennifer, would you call the owner? I'd like to speak with him directly. Melissa rolled her eyes at Patricia. You can't just demand to see the owner. That's not how upscale venues work. We'll probably get thrown out. I'm sure he won't mind, I said pleasantly. 5 minutes later, James Whitmore walked onto the terrace, silver-haired and distinguished. His face lit up. Harper, why didn't you tell me you were coming? I hugged him. Surprise inspection. He laughed. Everything meet your standards, partner? The word hung like a bomb. Melissa's face went white. Partner. Oh, didn't Harper mention? James said cheerfully. She owns 40% of Riverside Manor. She's the genius behind our catering program and operational overhaul. Best investment I ever made. Silence. You own this place? Melissa squeaked. 40%, I confirmed. For 18 months now. James beamed. Harper redesigned the entire menu, including that $85 plate you were discussing. She increased our revenue by 200%. This venue would still be struggling without her. He turned to me. So you're getting married? When? June 15th, I said. Perfect. No charge, owner's privilege. Plus catering at cost. Jennifer, block out June 15th for Harper's wedding. Premium package, complimentary. Melissa found her voice. But we've been on the wait list for over a year. 2-year wait list for regular bookings, James confirmed. But this is my partner's wedding. That takes priority. After James left, silence. Harper, you own this venue? Thomas finally asked. 40%. Surprise. This whole time. He looked stunned but impressed. Melissa's face was bright red. You let me humiliate myself. You made assumptions based on my car and clothes, I replied calmly. I didn't correct them. You decided I wasn't good enough without knowing anything real about me. I was trying to help. You thought I was poor and needed rescuing. You never asked real questions about my career. You just assumed because I'm not flashy, I must not have money. That says more about your values than mine. Thomas put his arm around me. Harper's right. You've been condescending since day one. That ends now. We left shortly after. In the car, Thomas was quiet. What else haven't you told me? He finally asked. I own stakes in 8 restaurants. I'm working on a cookbook deal. And I have a sailboat, those Sunday yoga classes. I'm actually sailing. He started laughing. You don't do yoga? I hate yoga. Love sailing. He pulled over and turned to me. None of this changes how I feel. I fell in love with who you are, not what you have. I know, I said softly. That's why I'm marrying you. We married at Riverside Manor that June. The venue was stunning, food exceptional. Melissa attended, subdued and apologetic. She'd reached out after the incident, admitting she'd been judgmental and cruel. James's toast was perfect. To Harper, who transformed this venue into Charleston's finest. And to Thomas, who was smart enough to see her value before his family caught on. 6 months later, I ran into Melissa at a charity event. Harper, I need to explain, she said quietly. I felt threatened by you. You're successful without needing our family's approval. I've built my identity around being a Reed. Seeing someone succeed without caring about that scared me. You're more than your last name, I told her gently. You don't need to prove worth through family reputation. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I'm working on figuring that out. Last week, James and I closed on a boutique hotel in Savannah. My portfolio is now worth over $4 million. The cookbook releases next spring. Thomas still teaches history, still values people for who they are. He learned to sail and joins me most Sundays. My name is Harper Bennett Reed. I'm 29 years old. I co-own Charleston's most exclusive wedding venue and 8 restaurants. My sister-in-law thought I couldn't afford to eat at my own venue. I designed the menu she was insulting. And I've never been prouder of building success quietly, without needing anyone's approval. Wealth whispers. Mine speaks volumes.